Hello, it's me, Dr. Dawn, with Family Renewed and the ABCs of Family Resiliency, bringing you our next installment of Applications of the Week. This month, we are talking about the art of communication since it is essential to everything that we do. Now, if you recall, last week we talked about the 5 basic elements of communication, which include the sender, the receiver, the message itself, the channel, and the feedback. This week we will be discussing channel in greater detail because oftentimes that is what is underlying the challenges that we face in our communication efforts. Now, if you recall, the channel is the way in which a message is being transmitted between the sender and the receiver. So this could be verbal or nonverbal. So when you think about verbal, we're thinking about the spoken word. We're thinking about maybe what we're seeing on television. It could be the radio. It could be internet sites like YouTube channels, or it could be apps like TikTok. Or it could be something written like books or magazines or letters. Or it might be the emails that we send or text messages. Now, the nonverbal are things like our gestures, our facial expressions. It could be our tone of voice, or it could be things like the position that we're at in the room. If we're sitting, if we're standing, if we're further away from people, it might be eye contact. Other things to consider when we're talking about nonverbal communication might be with our written words. It could be using certain punctuation marks, using extra ones or different symbols. It might be emojis that we're using or special effects or the way that we edit our information. Now remember, there are different advantages and disadvantages to the different types of communication and the channels that we use. So it's very important when we're using these different channels that we think about how the receiver is interpreting the information. The things that we're sending, the nonverbals, the verbals, what we're sending and what we intend to send may not be what is received by the receiver. And so it's very important that we have that feedback loop. So understanding the different channels that we use is important because it can impact and drastically change the way that a message is received. Now, last week I asked you to pay close attention to how you are communicating with others, whether it's your family, your friends, your coworkers. I wanted you to think about the different elements of communication. Are you receiving feedback? Are you giving feedback? And how does that impact your relationship? I really want you to think about the differences that you have with how you communicate with different people. Now this week, I want you to focus on the channel of communication, your verbals and your nonverbals, your tone of voice, the type of language, the type and the way that you are actually transmitting your messages, the body language. I want you to really think closely on how that might differ from how you're interacting with your children or your parents, or it might be different between how you interact with your boss or your friends or coworkers. Think about the tone of voice that you use. Is it different? Is it the same? Who is it different with? And this is very important because, again, these are the elements that are going to change and impact your relationships. So I really want you to pay close attention to how you use those different nonverbals. Because again, that might also give you more insight into what's going on in that relationship, what you're bringing to the relationship and what you're taking from the relationship. Now, if you like what you've heard today and think it has been beneficial, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like and comment and give me some feedback about some of the things that you have learned this week on communication. And don't forget to share my channel with your friends or anyone you think who might benefit from these discussions. And I look forward to seeing you next week for our next application of the week, when we will be focusing on those challenges within communication and how they impact our relationships. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.